On this journey to achieving your life's potential, we, Edelweiss Tokyo Life Insurance, will partner you right through. Go on, dream unlimited, dare unlimited, live Zindagi Unlimited. Edelweiss Tokyo Life Insurance.
Welcome to our special series, Be Future Ready Financially. I'm your host, Pallavi. Most of you would agree that retirement, despite being a common life goal, remains the most neglected part of our financial planning. And in this session, we're going to talk about how you can plan for your tension-free retirement to ensure fixed income in your golden years. I'm happy to be joined by two of the best experts. I have with me Subhrajit Mukhopadhyay, Executive Director, Edelweiss Tokyo Life Insurance. Subhrajit comes with a robust experience of over 2.5 decades in the life insurance sector. He's been instrumental in actuarial functions. His immense contribution has ensured Edelweiss Tokyo Life remains a product innovator. I'm also being joined by Kiran Telang, financial planner and author of Mindful Retirement. Kiran Telang is a certified financial planner registered as an investment advisor with SEBI and author of Mindful Retirement. Kiran works with clients across the globe to help them achieve their financial goals and simplify their financial lives. I welcome both of you to the panel.
Thank you, Pallavi.
Thank you, Pallavi. Thank you.
So, Subhrajit, talking about the year that has gone by, according to you, what have been the biggest lessons when it comes to money management and values?
Okay, I think the year that has gone by is, I don't know. We have never seen such kind of a year in our entire lifetime. We don't intend to see such a period again. There's many negatives, and the pandemic comes with a lot of negatives and across the globe, and it created a lot of disturbance, both economically, financially, emotionally, and multiple ways. Couple of things happens during this period, especially with the money management and other things. I suppose that people suddenly become extremely risk averse during this period. At least I know initially for the first couple of 3 months, there is people who are not ready to shell out money, preserving cash, not making any discretionary spending, not going long-term investment, and so on and so forth. So it started with a fridge. People have gone into a freeze mode and moved to a risk-averse mode and slowly coming out of that. So I suppose, once they come out of these initial shocks, then the people started realizing the value of a savings, value of investment at hand, and how that can be used for the future security. The concept of a contingent savings, the concept of untoward decision that can happen in our life is a kind of a manifestation that has happened through the COVID-19 phenomena in the last year. And that has ensured that people have started looking at things much more differently. I have seen in the life insurance space, people have started looking at their protection plans to cover their contingency event, looking at savings for a long time, and so on and so forth. So yes, people's outlook towards investment, security, creating the base, the foundation of the financial planning has started getting much more tractions. The awareness has increased, the queries have increased. And I clearly see the discussion that used to happen that we look at it later. Later, it's now that the discussion has started happening. Yeah. People are still prefer a liquidity. There is still a preference for liquidity, but I think slowly people are starting getting the value of the long-term investment as well.
Truly. In fact, Kiran, according to you, what have been the biggest lessons from 2020? And since you work with a lot of people and you help them plan their finances, what were the kind of responses you got from them?
So I think 2020 has been a year of despair and hope. So the initial despair, the hopelessness that it all began with when the first lockdown was announced, it came as a shock. And then there was hope when, people started accepting things that, okay, this is the way things are and we need to live by it. I think it's a combination of despair and hope. As far as money management goes, I think there was a huge change in the mindset of people. The biggest thing that I feel is that people realize that risks actually can play out. Because so far what has happened is that in an investment or in a plan, there is always a risk and a return. So people used to focus more on the returns part, and the risk was kind of, somewhere in the background. But this year we have seen a lot of risks being played out. So that reality has, kind of hit people, and people realize that, yes, we do need to look at risks also. And another part that I've seen is that people also realize that what is really important. So there have been excesses so far in terms of spending, in terms of way you live your life, in terms of the goals that you plan for. Because everything is rosy, and that time you just extrapolate that thing. So you have extra money, you go and buy another property.
Right.
Those kind of things. So people now realize that what is actually important for life to go on in such situations. So I think that realization has dawned, and people have started changing the way they plan their money management. So I think it has been a good year in terms of learnings for a lot of
that's something positive coming out of this discussion. But as you rightly mentioned, and I would like to ask this to Shubhajit, that prioritizing things, this is something that has come about in this last previous year 2020. So according to you, retirement for most seems like a distant goal. They always have this mindset that they will plan it later, when we'll think about it later. But in actual, the planning should start early. So according to you, how does one look at retirement solutions?
I think that's a very good question. And I think the golden rule is that when you start working, you start thinking about quitting. At the moment you start earning, you should start thinking about stopping. So it should be starting as early as when you start your earning and the day you join. But more than that, I would like to say a little bit of what this retirement planning is all about. What is this solutions is all about. I would like to briefly touch upon. I think there are two parts, and it's very important for our audience to differentiate these two parts. One is what we call an accumulation phase. One is called a deaccumulation phase or annuity phase. I see a lot of overlap that happens between these two things, and unless we very clearly demarcate these two differences, we'll not be able to plan accordingly. So accumulation phase is during your period of earning. When you earn, you build a corpus over a period of time. If your retirement age is 60, you build up to the corpus up to 60. Beyond that, when your earning is over, you would like to get an earning out of that accumulation. That's called a deaccumulation phase. And the solutions are completely different. And I think it's very important for people to differentiate these two aspects. For example, there is an availability of NPAs, mutual fund, the insurance, pension plans, which are very popular during the accumulation phase, where you can grow your money. And in that case, the earlier you start, the better it is, because if you have a long time horizon, and I think Kiran can add to that, if you have a longer time horizon, your ability to diversify assets, to take a slightly riskier assets is much more, because over a longish period of time, the long period volatility usually comes down, or the short volatility usually high. So if you start early, the advantage is that not only you can invest for a long period of time and use the golden rule of the power of compounding, so allows you to, very important factor, to diversify asset classes, go for a slightly high growth asset classes, which is not possible to start pretty late, because that time you have to also protect your downside of the investment. Say there is all, because there are always cycles of downside happen, but if you have a long period of time, the cycles usually tends to average out, and you give a trend line of good return over a longer period of time. So if you look at any investment, the mantra is that stay for a long period of time, and nothing better than if you wanted to build your corpus for retirement solutions. So that's the pure part of the accumulation phase. Then once the accumulation phase is over, then you wanted to use the money to purchase either popularly as annuity, which gives a long-term guarantee return for a long period of time. The advantage of that is that the money usually locked in at a certain rate. So you don't bother about the interest rate going up and down, and especially when the interest rate globally, especially our neighboring countries, including India and all the places, are going at a very low rate. You need not bother about your money, your income going significantly low if you lock in at a high rate. And there are certain advantages to that also. And then you can do an annuity plan and get a lifelong annuity. And there are multiple annuity options available in the market in terms of annuity with a spouse, annuity with the return of purchase price, and so on and so forth. Very important that you have very clearly demarcated planning and objective for these two aspects, one for the accumulation phase, one for the deaccumulation or the pension or the annuity phase. As long as that clarity is there, if you start early, allow the compounding to go on, compounding to play out, and diversify the asset classes, I think that's the best period to start.
Yeah. So time has to be given to your investments. Kiran, I would like to ask you this, that, when talking about retirement funds, when we are talking about pension funds, there is a tendency in, individuals that every time a crisis hits them, they withdraw money from their retirement funds. So, of course, what we've seen in equity mutual schemes, that there have been, continuous redemptions. How do you look at it, and what is the kind of impact this can have on their overall retirement planning?
What you are saying is right, Pallavi, that the first thing people look at, I mean, generally is drawing from the retirement kitty that they have been accumulating. The reason is that retirement is a very long phase goal, So somebody who's young, for him, him or her, the retirement goal is pretty far away. So they feel that they'll be able to catch up.
Yeah.
But as Subhrajit was also saying that, that period of compounding is very important. So the moment you break that compounding, which is coming over the years, it is definitely going to impact what you're going to end up with. So somebody, for example, say at the age of 30 is starting with a small, say mutual fund SIP of maybe 2,000 or 3,000 rupees a month. And as they go along, they keep on increasing the, investment. Now, say at the age of 45, there is a need, say they are buying a house and they withdraw that fund. This fund was meant to support them in their retirement. But they have seen that this accumulation has gone to a substantial amount, and that is very lucrative and very easy for them to pull it out.
Right.
So they might just end up pulling it out, but then from 45 to 60, they have only 15 years left. And they are starting from zero again at 45. Whereas if they had let that fund be there, so far what has accumulated from 30 to 45 is 15 years. So you keep earning on that amount, the accumulated amount as well. But if you make it zero, start again, you go back so much in time. So anybody who's interested in understanding compounding, just read about it on the internet. You'll find the formula. In the formula, if you see, there are three main aspects. One is the amount that you're investing. Second is the rate of return that the investment is giving you. And third is the time. So among these three factors, what is in your control is the amount that you invest and the time that you leave it there for. The rate of return is never in your control, whether be it in equity, be it in debt, or any other asset class that you're looking at. Right. So what you can do is maximize the amount that you're investing and leave it for a longer period of time. These are the only two things that you can do. Beyond that, it is not in your control. Right?
Subhrajit, you want to add, I think, something to it?
Yes, I think it's very important. I think the exponential happen with the formula. The exponential component comes in the time. So time is the most important factor in the compounding, as you mentioned. But the other aspect is extremely important, I suppose. There are certain investment you want liquidity. There are certain you don't want liquidity. You want exit barriers, actually. Honestly speaking, you don't want to touch. And retirement is one such solution that you don't want to touch the money for your some other things, for some holiday or some other aspect. You don't want to touch the corpus. This corpus is meant for a retirement planning. So it's important, coupled with compounding, starting early, investing in a diversified asset portfolios. It's extremely important to have a high exit barrier. Can't touch. One of the golden rule, if you look at NPS, before 10 years you cannot exit. PPF at a 15 years horizons. So it's good to have invest for an accumulation period in an instrument which have a strong exit barrier. So that money is kept aside for a completely retirement objective. So this is important consideration for the mind, and your instrument should be chosen accordingly.
Sure. In fact, Subhrajit, we're talking about what are the things that we need to do, but there must be something that we do not, shouldn't be doing. So according to you, what are the most common mistakes and what are the don'ts for investing when it comes to retirement planning?
I think starting late. I think opposite of starting early. Starting late, because as we rightly said that you have enough time to invest. But the moment you feel that they're starting late, the ability to compound, and I think there are numerous examples floating in the internet, as you rightly said, started with the same amount at earlier age, vis-a-vis a later age. The ability to generate the corpus is extremely low. Point is that how much money you need to earn at a retirement period as a pension is also not very clear. So it is important for the person to get an appropriate advice that what is the amount of money you'd be requiring.
Okay. Okay.
How do you cover your other contingencies also is extremely important. You should not mix retirement planning with other contingent event. So the health, the life insurance and so on and so forth. So please, it has to be a segregated earmark investment. It cannot be mixed with many other investments. So earmark is extremely important. So that's another thing that needs to be done.
Okay.
And the last one is that just because you started late going for an extremely risky asset at a later stage can have the downside of allowing the market volatility to play out over a shorter period of time. So one needs to be cautious, especially if you are starting late and the horizon for the retirement is not very significantly high. You need to be careful about your investment play, and I think you need to understand the downside risk as well. And of course, it depends on the risk appetite. But the formula approach here is that the key thumb rule is the durations plays an important for a higher growth asset classes, and secondly, on the age. The higher the age, it is expected that your appetite for the high growth asset classes should reduce over a period of time, so that you have a lesser chances of going a return going significantly down over a period of time, because this is the corpus you don't want to change too much.
Sure. In fact, Kiran, we're learning quite a bit about retirement planning and what we need to do and all. But there's one thing that constantly comes to mind. What would be the right time, when I should start? Like, should I start when I'm like 10 years away from retirement, 20 years, 30 years? Of course, giving more time would be beneficial. But what is the kind of approach, and how about the retirement goals? Like you mentioned that there needs to be a ballpark figure, and Shubhajit just seconded that thought that there needs to be an amount segregated and annual earmarking and a lot of these efforts. So tell us more about how do we set the retirement goals?
Pallavi, so what Shubhajit was just saying, that whatever you're earmarking for your retirement, that should be sacrosanct. So I totally agree with that, because it's very easy to, look at a goal which is very far away and dip into that corpus to meet your other needs, which might be of shorter term in nature comparatively. And the exit part that he mentioned earlier. So there are two aspects to it. So exit is something where you cannot discipline. I mean, if there are exit barriers, it works for somebody who cannot discipline himself or herself. Whereas there could be a negative part to it, that if there is too much tinkering in the product and it is not, really favoring you, then you don't have a way to exit without some kind of loss. So that could be the other aspect of it. So you need to be a little careful about, products that come in with lock-in also. So you need to evaluate both the things and then take a decision whether you need to go for it. And as far as setting your retirement goals, it's not, one kind of set for everybody. So every family is different. Every person's requirements are different. There could be a family which has larger dependencies. There could be dependent parents, there could be dependent siblings, or there could be a special child in the family. So every circumstance is different. There could be people who don't have children. So for all families, it is a different form of planning that is required based on what their situation is.
Right.
There could be people who are looking at, philanthropy. They want to make donations, or they want to support a cause when they retire, or they want to work for, social cause. So there could be outgo towards it apart from what you need for your regular income. So every family, every person is different. And though the basic rules of investment don't change, you have to align them to what the person really wants. So that is where personal finance. So finance is more personal than finance. So it has to be aligned to your particular needs. So that is how you plan for your retirement. So the basic thing in a retirement goal is income generation, right? So you need to have that income. Your salary or your business income stops at a certain age when you decide to retire. You need to have that kind of income in hand to live a comfortable life. You need to have enough money to meet any emergency needs, say healthcare, or if there is any problem with the house that you're living in, there are several natural calamities that might come up. If it impacts you, how do you move to another location? So those are the kind of things where you should have enough money to support you at that time without depending on anybody else. So these are the two key factors, I think, which people should keep in mind, and accordingly arrive at a ballpark figure of what you will need to have when you retire.
Sure, sure. In fact, Shubhajit, coming to you, we're talking about, setting retirement goals and, aligning your present, expenses and things like that. But there is a dilemma always in the minds of an individual that, the retirement life will be very different from the kind of life that one has in the current time. So how does one align his or her goals to keep a balance, between the present life and the life which is, maybe 15 years or 20 years ahead or maybe 30 years. So and what are the different factors that one should keep in mind while setting the retirement goals?
Okay, I think that's a very interesting questions, and I suppose it's extremely important that you understand that given the longevity of the people nowadays, do you want to continue to live the similar standard of life going forward post retirement? Earlier, 30, 40 years back, there used to be a period where after retirement, everything comes to a pause, comes to a standstill. It's not the case now. People want to continue their similar lifestyle, if not better, actually, if better,
right.
Because the stress gone away and so on and so forth. Post-retirement, and many people are also considering taking an early retirement so that to have a much more fruitful life beyond and extremely fruitful working life. So considering this, given that there is a paradigm shift in the way people now think about the retirement, I think it's important that the planning also has to synchronize with that approach. It has to have a similar approach for the way people think. So there are two approaches. I think we discussed a lot about when to start early and specifically with respect to the accumulation phase. Now you are coming for retirement. That's also another decision point. What to do with the accumulation money, and that's extremely important for one to understand. Specifically, those who are approaching retirement, either approaching early retirement or approaching retirement, either way, they need to now consider what are the kind of lifestyle they're going to lead. Do they have a family? I think one of the questions was with respect to the family. So do they look for a pension with a spouse together, so they can, in case something happens to the person, the spouse can continue to enjoy the annuity and so on and so forth. All these things need to be considered, and one more planning is required before retirement, so that there are multiple options around annuities are available currently with on the income side, and any of the options can be depending on the family structure, the horizon they're looking for, whether they want the money back at the end of the period and so on and so forth. Multiple options are available, and people should evaluate such options to cater to the continuing lifestyle and whatever contingency that may happen together. So these are options, and I suggest that audience look for multiple options. There are options like retirement annuity with a spouse benefit. So something happens to the main earner, the pension can continue with the spouse, return of purchase, and so on and so forth. There is annuity, certain options also available, increasing annuity, many options are available, and one can look at the options, but it's good time to take a pause, evaluate all the options, and take a decision based on whatever options are available.
Okay, so Pallavi, if I may add to the previous question which Shubhajit was just answering, when you spoke about the balance, I think that is a very important thing to keep in mind. So let me just give an example which I have often used in my sessions when I talk about retirement, is that if you look at the movies Bagban and say Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, so I feel these are two extremes of retirement planning. So while in Bagban, the father spent everything on the family and did not plan anything for his retirement. In the movie Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, Hrithik Roshan is totally, concentrating on accumulating wealth so that he can retire early. So these are two extremes. So you should not forget to live, but you should also not forget that one day you're going to get old and you will need that accumulation of money. So an ideal balance between these two situations, I think, is very important to have. So I think it will be more, livable also, because if usually people think that financial planners, when they talk about retirement, they will stop you enjoying life today and, totally make you save every penny that you earn. That's not the fact. I mean, if you just stop living today, I mean, you accumulate all the money, and at 60, if your body is not fit enough to travel the world, I mean, what's the use? So you should have traveled when you were younger, when your body was fit enough to take the, energy that is required for all that traveling. I mean, it has to be a balance always. I mean, it cannot be either or. It always has to be a balance.
Absolutely. And in fact, Kiran, going by this example that you gave, where we of course want to talk about early retirement, which Shubhajit just touched upon, that when it comes to early retirement, and I think lot of people have started thinking about it, especially in the kind of things that they experienced in 2020. I mean, the emotional impact that has had on them. So then it becomes even more important to, create alternate source of income. So if you could help us understand, how does one create an alternate source of income, and what are the possibilities? And of course, while we're still young and we're still learning.
Right. See, two things to this. Early retirement is overly romanticized, I think. So people think that, after retirement, there'll be this golden sunset and they'll enjoy life. But the true fact is that if you don't have anything to occupy your mind and your time, you will be bored to death. So what do you do if you retire at 40 and 50? What do you do after that? Because time is another factor. Money is one important factor, but time is another factor. So you might live till the age of 90. What do you do for the next 50 years?
Right.
And so far, if you've been totally, occupied with your work, and suddenly one day there is nothing to do, I mean, it's very difficult to live. I mean, maybe a month or two, you'll watch Netflix and, you'll try and get up with your fitness goals and other things. But after that, the boredom will kick in. And what do you do? So unless you have a very good plan of what you're going to do with your time, I think you should think 1,000 times before you, talk about early retirement. I think that is a fact which people need to look at. Now, as far as the alternate income source that you mentioned, alternate incomes can come either from the skills that you have or from the assets that you have built. So do you have a skill which you can monetize? So do you think you can do something in your spare time while you're still working, say on the weekends? I mean, if you have the energy left after working a full week, can you really, monetize that skill? So that is one way to look at it. Second is if you build some assets. So if you have either built investments which can generate income, but again, looking at while you're working, you don't really need that income. The income requirement will arise only when your primary source of income stops. So either your salary or your business income stops, only then you will need to draw income. So don't try and draw income while you're still having a primary source of income through your job. Let it accumulate, let it grow, let it compound.
Okay.
Right. So that is one fact. So alternate source of income that way. But if there is something which you are earning while doing your job, you can plow that income in again towards investment. So create an asset out of it. And that asset can be used to draw income when you don't have other sources of income. So that is the way you need to look at and figure out whether it really makes sense for you.
Sure. In fact, Shubhajit, what is your perspective? How do you look at people thinking of creating an alternate source of income? And there are a lot of people, they work the whole week for their companies, and then over the weekends they try to monetize their skills, as in what Kiran mentioned. So how do you look at it?
Yeah, I just add to that. Early retirement is not about retirement completely from the work as such. It's not freeing up the mind. Early retirement is pursuing something you are also capable of, but not able to pursue because of the current workload. Of course, without a work. Early retirement is not lazy around watching Netflix. Early retirement is all about pursuing your other passions, dreams, which also can give you earning, but may not be at the level. It could be a different earning level. But it allows us to live a life which is completely different. So, so there is a lot of merit in early retirement, and which is being followed also. At Indian, we are still not very comfortable, at least because we still have some mindset of retiring late, and it will take some time to go there. Having said that, I agree that it should not be for the sake of it, and I think many people are pursuing many things. I see, especially in the Western countries, people are following retirement and the way they have gone into philanthropy and many other activities which are as different as the current job is, but it's for a different cause, different reasons. But the be completely different. I don't see people, and I see Bill Gates and few are exceptional examples, but in many cases people follow, they go for pro bono, they go for philanthropy and multiple things. Many causes are available to pursue these days. While people pursue the other income avenue, the opportunity for it's a rarely that happens that you will be able to come to that income level that you are having in most of the scenarios. So it's a very low probability even that you will be able to replace the kind of income that you are having in a normal working environment with a different income stream at a later stage of career. I am not saying that is not possible. Probability of that low. So when you are doing a persuasion, please ensure that the probability could low. That doesn't mean that for an individual it's a binary choice. Either it happens or doesn't happen. The probability plays over a number of people. But as long as people are aware that the probability of getting another career with a similar income level is low, people will be able to take the decision to that extent of the income portion for much more carefully. So I suggest that if you go for an early retirement, you should have your income generation protected through a reasonable corpus build up and purchasing a subsequent income solutions.
Okay.
Because creating another plan with a similar level of income is not necessarily a very high probability event. As I say, it's not a high probability event, but it may still happen with individuals. It depends on how they come up with. So that needs to be carefully considered. Yeah.
Sure. In fact, talking about different tools and different ways, you obviously talked about NPS in the beginning of the discussion, but I want to understand how opting for NPS or annuity plans, or in fact, PPF, which a lot of individuals invest into, how can these instruments help in creating a corpus? I mean, and what else needs to be done if once they're set, once they've decided that this is the kind of amount they would require once they retire? So how do these tools play out?
Yeah, so I'll come back to the point again, the accumulation and the deaccumulation. It's very important. Annuity is not an accumulation product. Annuity is a deaccumulation product.
Okay.
After you accumulate the corpus, you purchase annuity, use the corpus to get an income. So it's just reverse. First, you save at a periodical amount. You do a monthly save and you create a corpus. Now use the corpus to get an income. Just reverse happens. So accumulation phase, the reverse happens. You start getting income over the corpus you have created. Annuity plans provides a guaranteed income over the period of your life. If you take annuity for life, as I said, you can take an annuity for life with a spouse. Your death, someone's death, the spouse can continue to take the cover. It can come with annuity with a return of purchase price and so on and so forth. Multiple options are there, but it's all about generating the income in your retirement phase. Right? The accumulations is all about creating the wealth or creating the corpus over your earning phase. So, and in that case, NPS, pension product offered by the insurance companies, mutual fund to some extent, PPF, and so on and so forth, and can help you to create a corpus. The products are different in terms of tax benefit, compulsory annuitizations, lock-in period, and so on and so forth. But if you look at NPS has a lock-in period of 10 years. And after 10 years, after 10 years, before 60, one can still take a corpus, but 80% has to be annuitized. After 60 years of age, 40% corpus need to be a minimum annuitized, and 60% one can take as a maximum, 60% can take as a cash. So there are certain lock-in with respect to the time. There are certain lock-in with respect to the amount you need to annuitize. Annuitize means the amount you need to use to purchase annuity, which will give you a pension over a period of time. The objective of this program to ensure that you get a pension over a period of time. So there are certain restrictions to the extent the amount of cash you can get. It's much easier to say that give the choice to the people to manage, but in reality, I have seen very few people are able to manage that discipline. It's all because the behavioral human beings are not irrational. Human beings, and that's a very famous book that it's a irrational. The human beings tend to be emotional, irrational. Usually have a very instant gratification over a long-term goal. So it's good to have some level of disciplines in terms of such kind of an accumulations and how much one can take it as a cash and so on and so forth. Similarly, so there are two lock-in periods I'm saying. One is the period, and secondly is how much one needs to annuitize over a period of time. So you can at least you are assured that 40% money is going for your annuity income, and 60% you can use the cash for other contingent event that may come up with. And that if it is less than 2 lakhs, then you can of course withdraw the entire money. The corpus is small. Then it doesn't make to use this for a annuitization. So that's the NPS. PPF, there is no compulsory annuitization is required, but PPF, there is a minimum lock-in period of 15 years.
15 years, right.
And so this is the difference between NPS and PPF. The insurance plans offered by the insurance company, the pension plans, also has a certain lock-in period, both with respect to time. At least 5 years is the without any surrender penalty and withdraw. But whenever you withdraw the money, it has to be certain portion in the same proportion has to be annuitized and certain portion can be taken as a cash. So these are two difference,
Right.
in the various plans.
In fact, Kiran, there are different instruments available for people to, plan their retirement corpus. But some of the instruments which Subhrajit just discussed and, differentiated, according to you, how much do they help in, creating that financial discipline, which is much required? Because, of course, all of them come with certain lock-ins. What is your opinion?
So, Pallavi, I believe that you should look at each instrument which is available as to how it fits to your life. So, nothing is good or bad. Every product has its pros and cons. When you're creating, when we create plans for our clients, we look at several factors, So, it is including the lock-ins. We also look at key factors like the liquidity, whether it is required or not, how much liquidity will the product provide, what is the taxation impact, what is the kind of returns that we can expect. Though, obviously that is not under our control, but all these aspects need to be looked at in tandem. So as Subhrajit was mentioning, there are two phases, accumulation and a distribution phase, you can call it, the decumulation phase, which is when you have a corpus accumulated and you start drawing in income from that. So while in accumulation phase, the key aspect is that you should grow your corpus to a decent amount by the time you retire. In the decumulation phase, that is when you actually retire, your concern should also be, whether that income that you're drawing will suffice for life, because inflation is still going to be there, when you retire. So if you have a fixed amount coming in every month and that is not going to change over your lifetime, some point of time it is going to fall short because there is inflation. So you draw 10,000 a month. After 10 years, the 10,000 will buy you products only maybe worth 5,000 today. So inflation is not going to disappear. So you need to keep that also in mind. Plus there will be taxation. So taxation also, different products have different tax treatments. So what is most suitable for you? So whether it be annuity, as Subhrajit was mentioning, or there could be systematic withdrawal plans from mutual funds, there could be withdrawals from NPS, there could be things like Pradhan Mantri Vay Bandhan Yojana, there is senior citizen savings scheme. So there are several things available. There are bonds which you can buy in the secondary market and primary market whenever it is available. So there are several things. But what fits your requirement will need to be seen at an individual level. So somebody who's okay, who's got a very big corpus, is okay with a lock-in of a large part of his corpus, then that money should go into, products which are locked in. But other people could have a smaller corpus, which liquidity is also important. You can't lock in everything. So what if there is an emergency? Where do you draw the money from? In those cases, you will need to have that liquidity also provided. So I think these are the factors that you primarily need to look in before you decide on what product is suitable to create your retirement kitty and to create your income after retirement.
Sure.
Yes, I think absolutely. I think it depends on individual to individual and the choice and the horizons and the money they are available. Also, important things to look at the as I said, the improvement in the longevity. So people are now living longer. So it's important to consider that period also. How long we are going to live. So is that the money is sufficient for that living? That also need to be considered while taking decisions. Apart from taxation, liquidity, and the ability to beat inflations and how the inflation would be and so forth. Absolutely. True.
In fact, now I would like to bring your attention to a very important aspect of financial planning and retirement planning, which is the will and life insurance part. So Subhrajit, I want to take your reaction first. That if you look at 2020, this was a year where we witnessed significant number of deaths, spanning across all ages, not just restricted to senior citizens and people above 60. So what role can life insurance and will making play in an individual's life for easy transfer of wealth? Because that is one aspect which is kind of missed whenever we talk about the broader perspective of financial planning. Whatever we earn, we want to give it to our heir, whoever it is, and we want that it should go in the right hands. Of course, will plays an important part. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think, okay, let me answer this in a fashion that India, I think as a community and Indians, we like to pass on wealth to the next generations. It's not unlike the Western where we actually either do a philanthropy or some other things you like to do. I think in India, generally, we like to pass on the wealth. That's still the culture we have. So some kind of estate building can happen, which help the next generation, and that's the way we'd love to do that. Next, I think some of the life insurance plans, like whole life plans, for example, whole life plans means up to 99 or the period. Anything happens to the person, that corpus goes to the next of the kins, the family. So it's also some way of passing and you can make the appropriate nominee so that you can ensure that the corpus passes to the person.
Right.
It's not exactly retirement. So while the retirement solutions is extremely for the persons and the immediate family to take care of, the estate building is for the next generation or the next of the kins to be taken. So these two are completely different. To that extent, some of the life insurance policy and some of your corpus, other than the retirement corpus that you're earmarked for yourself, can be used for the estate building as well. So it's everything you need to build for estate retirement plan, but over and above, if you have a corpus that is left, you can build as a part of the estate, which can be passed on to the next generations. But primary, as the right example given in the Bhagwan cases, you should first make yourself independent of your retirement planning purpose, and then build other purposes. That's extremely important.
Okay.
And so don't mix various goals. It's important to have a
separate goal.
Each and every objective. Yeah.
So if I may add to this, what Subhrajit is saying, and what the question that you asked about life insurance and will. So these are two separate aspects of, any financial plan. So life insurance is a part basically of risk management. So when you look at risk management, first thing is that you should have an emergency fund. That is a contingency fund. Like a lot of people lost jobs or had pay cuts in 2020. So that is the time when the contingency fund will actually, help you to tide over that short phase where there could be these kind of issues. The second portion would be health insurance. So wherein any hospitalization, any major expense needs to be taken care of through insurance. And then third part comes to life insurance. So that in case the primary earner is no more, the family does not have to suffer due to lack of, income generated by that person. So that term insurance money will actually help people live their life normally and meet their goals still. So those are the three aspects, I think, which are a part of risk management, and every part is equally important. Whereas if you look at the will part of it, will is what happens to your assets after you are no more. Okay. So that is how you are going to pass on your, benefits. And it is important at any age, not only at the age of retirement. So if you have bought a property, that is a substantial part of your, wealth that you have created in your lifetime. So how does that go to the person that it needs to go to? There are, several laws in India which define what happens to a person's wealth after he's no more, if there is not no will. But if you write a will, you can exactly tell, whom you want the money to go to or whom you want the assets to. It's important that at any age, as soon as you create assets, you write your will.
Sure. With that note, let's move on to the Q&A part now. We've received a lot of questions from our viewers, so I'll start taking them up. Subhrajit, the first one is for you. This is sent by Arindam Mukherjee. He says, where can I put my money for low risk and reasonable returns?
That's $1 million question. I suppose I wish I had the answer for that. As I said, I think the low risk usually had a time horizons inbuilt into that. So although profile high growth asset classes may look risky at a shorter duration or a medium duration, at a longer duration, the volatility usually comes down. If you give yourself enough time to play out your investment, I think then you continue to invest in high growth asset classes, at the same time enjoying high return and low volatility over a period of time. So give yourself time, start early. I think that's the mantra, and you can manage both.
Okay. So the next question is for you, Kiran. It's sent by Sangeeta, and she says, I'm a homemaker and a freelancer, and I would like to have my own regular income every month for self-sustenance post 60 years. So she hasn't mentioned what is her current age, but how do you suggest what she should do?
Sangeeta, this is a question of financial planning. So, it cannot be answered in 2 minutes. You need to get your plan drawn up because it is very difficult to answer without knowing your background, without knowing what kind of, income. You mentioned that you need an income for sustenance. So for somebody, sustenance could be 10,000 a month. For another person, it could be 2 lakhs a month. Right. So that is a huge difference. So we don't know anything about that.
So how does she evaluate, in case we just take an approx figure of if she's earning, say, about like a 15 or a 20,000 every month from her freelance work that she does? So in maybe 20 years or 30 years down the line, how does she evaluate how much amount would she be requiring?
Not possible to do this on the show, Pallavi, because the numbers would have to be run. There would be assumptions on inflation. There would be assumptions on timelines. And again, the key factor here is how much does she need at that point in time? I mean, what is the income that she's looking at?
Okay.
So if you know the income that you want in your retirement, then you can, work out back to a figure that you need to actually save per month.
Okay.
So it's very difficult. It's a very generic question. I would suggest that a plan be done, or if you want a simpler solution, maybe you can go online and, there are several calculators available where you can put in the figures. I mean, you can take assumptions of inflation. You can, how many years you have, what kind of income you would want. Just plug in those numbers and you'll get an approximate figure of, what you need to really look at.
Okay. Okay.
I would like to add to that. I think it's very well said. I think any good financial planning is an interactive and iterative process. It's not a one-shot solution. If there is a one solution, then it will be a suboptimal, for example. You need to probe, you need to answer questions at various points of time to come up with the most appropriate solutions. So it's good to have a good financial planning and advice to get for the specific kind of answers to be get.
Okay. Okay. So now let's move on to the next question. This question is sent by Chenna Kesav Chettiar, and he says that I'm 23 years old. I'm unmarried. I've just started my career 3 years ago, and I'm drawing a salary of 12,000 rupees every month. Suggest me how can I get an extra income? Shubhrajit, this one's for you.
How can I get an extra income? Sorry, I'm not very sure what do you mean by extra income here.
I mean, maybe he wants to say that 12,000 is the amount that he takes home every month. So this may not be suffice for his current expenses. So if he needs to earn some more, what can he do? If probably that's the question.
Okay, that's a very interesting question. I think he needs to look at various options of generating additional income. I don't think this falls into the purview of a retirement planning. It's more of an income generation. You must look at various other options to get the income. Because if he's not able to invest the money, if the money is going for a spending, I don't think any way he can get any income out of the investment as such. Okay, because anyhow the money is going for it to meet most of his expenses. He needs to look out for other options. But here we are talking about the retirement plan. I don't think it falls into a retirement planning question. It's more of a how to generate other income. So he needs to look at various other professional things to generate his income.
Okay, okay. Kiran, next one's for you. It's sent by Raghavendra Aravati, and he mentions that his age is 38, wants to retire by 45, so not much time left, and he's got 2 kids, 7 and 5 years. So what is your suggestion?
7 years is the time that he wants to retire in. Kids are pretty small. So how does he fund the education? He needs to have answers to that. Does he have enough corpus to generate income? At 45, will he have another career? As Subhajit had mentioned, that people retire from work to follow something that is their passion.
Yeah.
So is there something that he will draw income from? So are those questions answered? Does he have sufficient life insurance? Because kids are still young, there will be responsibilities. And in case something untoward happens, how will the family manage? Is the spouse working? So is there an alternate, income coming in which can, support the goal? So there are these several factors which he needs to look into, and post that he can take a call whether he can actually retire at 45. Okay. So it's always if you want to. So these kind of questions usually come up when people are looking for entrepreneurship options. So what I believe is that there cannot be a numerical answer to all these questions. So there can be a broad direction that you have, and absolute basic necessities, maybe 2-3 years of expenses should be available. So those kind of things can be planned for. But beyond that, it's always a leap of faith.
Okay.
So you need to take that call on your own, take a leap of faith, and have a plan B.
Okay.
Things don't work out, how do you get back?
So we have many questions. Let's try and take as many as possible. Next one is by Aditya, and that's for Shubhrajit. He says, what are the best safe options again? And he's mentioned about ULIPs. So he says, are ULIPs and mutual funds advisable for good returns?
I think it's a very, it depends. Again, this is a very open-ended question, so I'll start with the depends. And long run, I think both are good. And when you're talking about the retirement solutions, it's all about long run. So it's important to ensure that you invest for a long period of time, because both tend to give a good return. One of the ways you can look at is that if you are expecting certain 8% return over a long period of time, you can look at a 8% scenario, whichever gives a lower cost for a 20, 25, 30 years. Then you can do a comparison between a particular ULIP plan or a particular mutual fund, and then figure out where the cost structure is low, including mortality and so on and so forth. So that could be one of the ways to look at the cost structure, is one of the ways to look at which is a better plan for a particular plan. The others is that in both the cases, I need to look at the liquidity aspects and look at the long-term investment approach. But in both the cases, it's important to keep in the mind that if you start investing early, you are able to invest in equity or other high growth asset classes early, so that and you continue to rebalance your portfolio as we approach towards the copper generation period, that is towards the maturity or towards when your retirement period. So as long as you are aware of such things and you do it, I think it, depending on your outlook, both can be useful to generate.
Okay. Next one is by Charu, and that's for Kiran. She says that what are the other options for senior citizens? Because he's mentioned that what about those who are already pensioners, finding difficulty because of the reduction in FD interest rates and the medical expenses as such. So what could be the possible options for pensioners? That's one for you.
The problem is that when you're already at that age where you're drawing an income from your assets, your choices get pretty limited. So I will not mince my words. It is not easy. So while there could be options, they would also come with risks. So there could be people who would, tempt you with get rich quick kind of schemes. You put your money and it will kind of double in a year or two. Stay away from those. Don't make those mistakes. Okay. Unfortunately, whatever is available, which is on the safer side, have limited returns. For example, I mentioned earlier, Pradhan Mantri Vay Bandhan Yojana or the senior citizen savings schemes, which are fixed income products, which give you fixed income every month, every quarter. So those things are available. You have mutual funds where you can use a systematic withdrawal plan. But again, there are risks. Whatever level of risks are different with different schemes that you choose. So you need to be aware of things that things will come with a risk. It is not all hunky dory, and it's not easy. Unfortunately, I don't have any easy answers for you. So that is the reason we keep on telling younger people that things might not be, this good. The returns might not be this good. We are a developing country. By the time you actually retire, we might be a developed country, and returns might go down to 2-3%. So don't think it's going to be easy.
Sure. Shubhajit, next one's for you. This is sent by Nishad, and he says, which are the best retirement and child plans? If you could suggest him something.
Okay, so best retirement and child plans. I think I have already spoken about it quite a lot on the retirement plan. On the accumulation side, that I said that you can either invest in NPS, you can do investment in pension product offered by the life insurance companies, you can look for a mutual fund, you can look for a PPF and so on. So there are various instruments to create the corpus. That's important in the accumulation phase. Post-accumulation, when you require income, annuity is one of the popular products in this space, because both NPS and the pension products request you have to annuitize a certain portion of your money, usually minimum 40%, it can be more than that. In other cases, there is also, as she pointed out, SWP options available both for you as well as for mutual funds, where you can get a regular income if you wanted to continue to enjoy the growth of the income and so on and so forth. So all these options are available. It depends. And the accumulation phase, it depends on how start you early. And in the accumulation phase, it depends on your risk appetite, your outlook on the how long you are likely to live, your tax treatment, your liquidity position, and so on and so forth. So it's vary between person to person, and I suggest that depending on your need, you should be able to choose this. And if required, advice from a financial consultant.
Sure. Kiran, next one's for you. This is sent by Dinesh, and the question is on SWPs only. He says, which debt funds are suggested for SWP for getting regular income for retirees, and also some ultra short-term or short-term debt funds? Because probably what he means by his question is that how many debt funds should be there in the portfolio if one is not solely depending on SWPs?
See, while I can't name particular schemes, I'm not allowed to do that by law. SWPs generally, I mean, it is preferred that you have low volatility products, you know, down the range, say money market funds or say maybe low duration or ultra short category. So those categories should be fine because the volatility is much lower in that. But again, you need to evaluate the schemes that you are taking in, because mutual fund eventually is a collective of underlying papers. Even in a debt fund, there are several papers that the scheme holds. So what is the risk in those papers? You need to evaluate before choosing a particular scheme. And I think 2 to 3 schemes should be fine. I mean, no point in going beyond that. So don't put everything into one scheme, but 2 to 3 schemes should be fair enough to, check for your SWP thing.
Okay. So I hope that answers your question. 2 to 3 schemes you can consider, and you can of course consult a financial expert, a financial advisor, to give you the names of the different products.
And also, if I may add, Pallavi, he said he's depending solely on SWP. So I suggest this solely SWP thing also might not be right. I mean, you need to create, even in distribution phase, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. So there needs to be some, diversification. There are schemes available for senior citizens, which we mentioned. Some of them can look at that and create a balanced portfolio in your case.
Okay. So the next question is for Subhajit, and this is sent by Raghavan. TKS Raghavan has sent us this question. Says, I'm a pensioner of a bank getting 1% more interest in FDs under staff category. Is it worth shifting the bank deposits to a short or medium term debt? So what is your suggestion, Subhajit? What should he be doing? He's also worried about the falling interest rates in the fixed deposits.
Yes, exactly. So I think it's again your outlook. The balance is to need to, because you need to see what is your outlook of the interest rate falling and your horizon for the investment. If you are comfortable putting it slightly longish period of time, then the fixed deposit you can go for that. But if you think your money, you require the money to be used for any contingent purpose, some other purpose that you might be requiring, you have to take a different decision. So it's exactly depends on how individually your risk appetite, your liquidity profile, your other investment are on, and then based on that you need to take a decision. So please consider your liquidity profile, your any contingent event that may happen, consider that, and your outlook of the next 5 to 10 years period.
Also, if I may add, I think taxation will play a major role here, because in case of retirees, see, FD is taxed at source. So as soon as you get interest, it is taxed, whether you withdraw the interest or it is accrued. Whereas in a debt mutual fund, you have that window of 3 years, wherein after 3 years it becomes a long term, and there is a significant saving in the taxation. So that aspect also needs to be looked in before you take a decision, because if you're getting 1% extra as a staff,
yeah. So depending on which tax
point.
Okay. So we'll take a few more questions before we wind up.
So
this
depends
session.
on which tax bracket you are in.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Yes.
So next question for you, Kiran, is by Ahmed Shahid, and he says, I'm a big time equity investor. He's been investing in mutual funds with 100% savings. That's what he says. I'm 32 years and my retirement is aimed at 60 years. Can I have only SWP from equity as a retirement income without any debt or annuity? What is your suggestion?
See, from the risk return parameters that we have studied so far, 100% equity portfolio comes with a substantially higher risk. But many times it does not justify that risk in terms of the difference in return. So if you have, say, 80-20, so 80 equity, 20 debt, or 70-30 kind of portfolio, the difference in the returns is not very significant to a 100% equity portfolio, unless of course you have a direct equity portfolio, which could be very different. But if you talk about pooled accounts like a mutual fund product, the difference is not very substantial. Also, it is very difficult to say what will be ideal by the time you retire, because it's a 28-year horizon that you're talking about. You're 32 now. So we don't know what the situation will be when you are 60. So while you are in an accumulation phase, going 100% equity maybe for another few years is fine towards your retirement goal. But there could be other things which might need debt investment. There could be short-term goals. There could be, short-term goals like maybe buying a house, maybe buying, a car, or maybe planning for your children's education, because education also doesn't come cheap these days. Right. So probably those goals are very short-term in nature, and equity will not be a suitable product for them. So if you're talking only about retirement, maybe another few years you can go 100% equity. But beyond that, start looking at the balance. So don't forget the balance ever.
This is the last question for you, Subhrajit. This is sent by Indrajit, and he says currently he's investing in NPS and PPF for his pension funds. Is there any other thing that needs to be included? And he just started 3 years ago. Current age is 38.
I think congratulations, Indrajit. I think you are in this minority investors who have actually able to invest in NPS and PPF both. Very in India at this stage are investing in both the things. So it's many congratulations. I think you have already embarked on the right directions to that extent. I think it's keep on going that. Don't stop it. It's important that you continue to invest in this for till the retirement. And if you do that, I think that should be good enough. You can also look at other instruments as I outlined during the chat. But I think continue to invest in NPS and PPF can really become handy at the time of retirement. You need to, of course, look at rebalancing the portfolio and invest as you move towards the maturity of the retirement phase, because you need to move from a very high asset classes to slightly less riskier asset classes. That the rebalancing you need to know. And you also need to add corpuses at a regular interval to ensure that the retirement corpus grows to that extent. So these two things you need to keep in mind. I think it should be good enough for you. Of course, you can add to mutual funds and pension policies as well. Okay. But if you manage this too diligently and discipline, this should be good enough.
So this is the last question for you, Kiran. And this is sent by Subhash Bahadur. He says, I'm 73 years old, retired with no pension, invested the maximum permissible in senior citizen savings scheme through 2 accounts of 7.5 lakh rupees each. The interest that he's getting is 9.3%, and he's already extended the scheme, which got matured in 2019. So he wants to understand what else can he do. I mean, at this age of 73, what is the possible option for him?
See, the second obvious option comes to that Pradhan Mantri Vay Vandhan Yojana. That is something that which is again a fixed income 10-year product which is available. And it is almost at par with the senior citizen current rate of return at what would have got the extension. So he can look at that. See, again, depending on his tax level. So I'm presuming that he's in the lowest tax slab, or maybe his income is not taxable. Based on that, he can also look at some postal products. But postal products come with an issue that it is a little difficult to get that serviced in terms of going to the post office and updating the passbooks and stuff. So that way it is a little difficult. So if there is somebody who can help him out with that, probably that be another thing that he can look at. So again, a lot of other factors are not known. So he's just mentioned this one bit. So I'm just looking at the fixed income products that he can look at. There are several other options, but will depend on what his other assets are and what is his situation like.
Sure. So that brings us to the end of the Q&A session. And before we let both of you go, just one last piece of advice from both of you for our tension-free retirement. If you could sum it up, that's a very tricky question because you'll have to sum it up in just one line. Subhrajit, I go with you first.
Right. I think I'll give my mantra, start early. It allows you to compound and it allows you to diversify your asset classes. You can actually invest in high-growth asset classes. Earmark. Don't mix up your investment in multiple things. Earmark functions. And given our ability to have a long-term discipline, it's good to have some level of lock-in, some level of exit barrier. Of course, you need to carefully choose which exit barrier you would like to go for. So you still invest in PPF and other places, and NPS you need to look at. So these are the 3 mantras for me to look at. Start early, earmark asset classes, and look for some level of exit barrier which suits your choice. This is not an investment for liquidity purpose. This separately has to be set aside.
Okay. Kiran?
I think it is very important to know what you want and what is your risk profile rather than, getting diverted by the external events that are happening. The principles of finance don't change whether you are in your accumulation phase or whether you are already retired and trying to draw an income from your assets. So don't forget these two things. Know yourself first, and the principles will never change. So keep that in mind before you take any decisions on any of your investments.
Thanks a lot. That's what indeed a very interesting and interactive session. Thank you both the speakers for taking time out and talking about tension-free retirement plan and how we can go about it. And all the viewers, thanks for watching it, and stay tuned for more updates. And we still have one session on Be Future Ready Financially. Stay tuned with ET. Thanks a lot. Thank you, both of you.